As we discussed in a previous video, Donald Trump's authoritarianism is terrifying and rapidly escalating. But there was a brief moment of hilarity after Trump spoke to reporters and was delighting in his strongman tactics. He then tried to board Air Force One and slipped on the stairs on camera, and we have multiple angles, and it's hilarious, and we've got to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, I won't make you wait. Let's get to the good stuff first, and then we'll talk about the terrifying stuff. Here's Donald Trump trying to board Air Force One, and visibly infirm and feeble, just as he is mentally. Apparently, he's physically weak as well. Watch this from one angle, and then I'll show you the other. You know that had to sting. He's like, oh, shit, they're watching me. They are definitely watching me. The only thing that could make it worse is if we had a different angle of it. And we do!
Turn now to our scheduled program. We join it in progress.
He's like, oh, damn, they're going to make fun of me now. We are going to make fun of you. And we're going to hold you to the same standard we held President Biden to, right? If we're going to talk about physical infirmity, mental infirmity, we've got to hold Donald Trump to the same standard. Joe Biden famously tripped going up the stairs of Air Force One, and Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and MAGA Republicans and Tim Pool and the Daily Wire, everybody talked about it nonstop. And to be fair and balanced, that means we've got to talk about this nonstop as well, and I would encourage you all to do the same. And the fact that it would humiliate Donald Trump, the most malignant narcissist and thin-skinned megalomaniac in the world, well, that's just an added bonus. So please be sure to share that clip everywhere and make fun of this physically and mentally weak authoritarian. He deserves it. Now let's talk about the scary stuff. So Donald Trump, I guess, probably still smarting from his slip on Air Force One, felt the need to tweet this out to compensate. He says, a once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try to stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I'm directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, again, rapidly escalating authoritarianism, as John Favreau from Pod Save America notes, absurd. There are a few protests downtown, and yesterday's drama was in a suburb 30 minutes away. We're the biggest county in America, with 10 million people, and you wouldn't know anything is up unless you read the news or happen to be downtown. This idea that, LA County, Orange County, all these places are being overrun by some sort of migrant horde is ridiculous. Now, as we mentioned in our previous video, according to LAPD, right, who has the primary responsibility for managing this, at least at the local level, they said most of the protests were peaceful. And in terms of the after-hours riots that occasionally got violent, they were managed by local law enforcement. As we discussed in that video, Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, said, thank God the National Guard was there that I sent because they got this stuff taken under control. They handled it perfectly, except the National Guard was never there. They didn't get there yet. They arrived this morning. In other words, as we mentioned in that video, local law enforcement managed the scattered, infrequent violence and otherwise peaceful protests so well that Donald Trump was trying to take credit for it because he thought it was the National Guard he deployed. So he's engaging in revisionist history. Now, could that change today? Yes, that could change. It could be possible that the protests today and tomorrow and other protests rapidly accelerate into violence. I'm not ruling that out. I can't guarantee that. But Donald Trump is employing revisionist history to justify his authoritarian tactics. So this is, again, the terrifying stuff. Let's play some of the clips from his brief conversations, brief engagement with reporters before he tried to go on Air Force One and nearly slipped and busted his ass.
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
for sending Marines to
As far as what I think it is, I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
sending active Marines on the table, sir. Secretary Hegseth.
We're going to see what we need.
Yeah, so the Insurrection Act, of course, is something that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller have been salivating about using really since term one, and Trump never did break that glass in case of emergency, although he's showing increasing signs that he might do so here. So that's something to look out for, number one. Number two, Donald Trump clearly doesn't give a damn about law and order because he pardoned 1,500 January 6th insurrectionists, hundreds of whom were violent and attacked cops, and he didn't give a damn. He blanket pardoned most of them and gave clemency to the others. So again, he doesn't care about police officers. He doesn't care about physical threat to law enforcement. It's all about whether or not the protesters serve him. If they're cultists of his, then they get a blank check to commit crimes with impunity. If they disagree with him politically, then he wants to bring the hammer down. Third, consider that standard. It's the bars, whatever I say it is, if we see danger, that means, well, law enforcement's in danger every damn day under every damn president. Does that mean you're going to send the military in or the National Guard every single time law enforcement's in danger? Yeah, pretty stupid, pretty authoritarian, dangerous combination.
Do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Yes, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit.
So Donald Trump is saying that law enforcement officers, National Guardsmen, if somebody spits on them, which I agree is gross, you shouldn't spit at people, that law enforcement should physically assault those who spit on them, not detain them, not arrest them or whatever, hit them, strike them in retaliation. That's, again, textbook authoritarianism right there. That's something that, jackboots and thugs would do, not, law enforcement or, National Guard held to a high standard of conduct. Again, no one here is advocating for law enforcement and National Guardsmen to be totally powerless and impotent in the face of violence. They have a right and obligation to defend themselves. But if someone spits at them, the notion that the president of the United States would say, just club them in the head, like, it's gross. It's gross. It's evil. Again, textbook Trump. Here's another clip.
Do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago?
Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then there's serious insurrection, or less than that, we're going to have...
What are the rules of engagement?
Get hit very hard.
What are the rules of engagement for federal troops?
We'll see what happens. If we think there's a serious insurrection, or less than that, we're going to have law and order. Very important.
How would you define an insurrection?
You have to really just have to look at the site. You have to see what's happening. Last night in Los Angeles, we watched it very closely.
He can't define it. He can't define what an insurrection is, even as he contemplates invoking the Insurrection Act, even as he is being purposefully vague about, the rules of engagement for law enforcement and for the National Guard, also really ominous. And ironically, most ironically of all, given that he led the most famous insurrection in American history, at least modern American history, maybe obviously the Civil War, and the attack on Fort Sumter, those would be, some of the more famous ones in history, the Whiskey Rebellion, and January 6th, which Donald Trump fomented and inspired. Here's another clip.
California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
Do you believe there is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
So he concedes right now that there is no insurrection. Again, note that. We'll see how he feels, in a day or so, whenever it's politically convenient to say, actually, I changed my mind. This is an insurrection. I can't define it for you, but it feels like an insurrection to me. Let's invoke the Insurrection Act, declare martial law, and rule for life. And unfortunately, I think many MAGA would go along with that, co-sign it. Here's another clip.
Do you think if Democrats continue to side with illegal aliens over law enforcement that they'll ever be able to win a national election again.
I love this guy. I think that is the great. Who are you with?
Breitbart News.
Great. It's a great group. Breitbart. Great group. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
So, didn't answer the question. Praise Breitbart for kissing his ass. Really awkward, weird question. Just imagine if President Biden and others, Democrats, took questions like that, as Donald Trump does all the time. I will also note that, 2024 was a bad year for us at the federal level, but Democrats have historically won elections. We beat Trump's Republican Party at the national level in 2018. We beat him in 2020. We beat him in 2021. We expanded our Senate majority in 2022. Democrats know how to win elections. Now, whether that will change moving forward, I suppose is possible, given not just demographic changes in terms of political partisanship. We definitely saw a largely rightward shift, mostly across the nation in 2024. It's possible that Democrats will continue to falter if that continues, or if the Trump administration works to try to entrench certain advantages, making it harder for Democrats to win elections. All of that is possible. But on the merits, Democrats are competitive with Republicans, and anyone who suggests otherwise is simply not aware of the electoral history. But that's a Breitbart moron for you. One more clip.
CNN's Dana Bash suggesting that this wasn't a real riot in Los Angeles.
Is that what she said? Oh, I think it was a riot. I think it was very bad.
Yeah, so again, in the grand scheme of things, I forgot this clip. Damn, I forgot this one. This one is as terrifying as any of them.
Very much. Do you have a question for Marco? Question for Marco?
I was curious if California officials could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation, something that Olin may have suggested.
If they will stand in the way of law and order, yeah, they will face charges. Thank you very much.
All right. So, yeah, he's threatening to prosecute California state and local leaders. We'll see what happens there. And again, I don't know where this will go. No one's psychic. It's entirely possible that these protests spiral out of control, but so far they have not. Again, the sweeping, attempt at, militarization of the National Guard, the bypassing Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom in ways that we have not seen in decades. Whereas Donald Trump hesitated to deploy the D.C. National Guard, over which he has sole authority, on January 6, 2021. He, sat on his ass and let that actual insurrection unfold, whereas he is, chomping at the bit to use any bit of power and break any norm or tradition imaginable to accelerate, the sort of martial impulses of the Stephen Miller Brigade in the White House. It really is ominous. And again, we're only 5 months into this administration. What's going to happen for the next 3.5 years? And as we ponder that, I want to leave you with this. Hilarious. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.